Native Americans of the Eastern Forest. We're still zooming around in that time when the Native Americans shared two continents with no one but animals. We're flying low between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mississippi River and looking down at a sea of treetops. So thick are the trees that a squirrel might go from the Atlantic Ocean to the Ohio River and even beyond, jumping from tree to tree and never touch the ground. It is a fine place to be a squirrel, and not a bad place for humans either. The woods are filled with good food for animals and people. Passenger pigeons fly in formations so dense they darken the sky. When a flock lands, its weight bends trees low, and men reach up and grab birds for their dinner. They are a treat, these passenger pigeons, sweet and juicy, and so abundant that the men net them and waste them. How can they know that someday the pigeons will be extinct and that most of the great trees will also be gone? Some of these trees measured 30 feet around. Look at your belt. Now imagine a rope 30 feet long. Make it into a belt and you get an idea of how big the trees are. If we land the capsule and we take a walk in the woods, you'll see that the Indians have cleared away the brush with fire, so the forest, with only tall trees and high grass, seems like a cool, sun-speckled park. The openness of the forest and the tenderness of the grass make it inviting to animals. The woods are filled with beaver, deer, raccoon, possum, and bear. The hunters have an easy time of it. See, over there, a hunter is wearing a deer's antlers on his head. He walks softly in deerskin moccasins, pretending to be a deer himself. He is teaching a boy some tricks with the bow and arrow. The boy is his son, and they will have a good day and drag a heavy deer home with them. They are woodland Indians, and as are all the Indians of this region. Some are grandchildren of the great mound builders. They have heard stories of glorious pasts, of temples and pyramids, but now the tribes are small and so are their mounds. Still, life is good. The men hunt in the woods and fish in the streams. The women who wait for them at home are farmers who grow corn and beans, squash and pumpkins. The women and children gather wild grapes, pick nuts from the tree, and sometimes dig clams on the beaches. Our hunter's wife, who is mother to the boy, is the best cook in their village. She knows 40 different ways of cooking corn. She will stew the deer meat and season it with the vegetables she grows. The men have cleared the trees so the village can sit in the sunshine with open fields for growing crops. They get rid of trees by girdling them. This means they cut the bark all the way around the trunk. That kills the tree, although it takes some time for it to die. When it happens, the tree falls down and can be easily split for firewood. Now that our hunter is home, he has taken the antlers from his head. He isn't wearing much else, just a strip of leather that goes between his legs and hangs front and back from a belt. In winter, the hunter will add a shirt and leggings, both fashioned from animal skins. On special occasions, he will bedeck himself in a fancy robe of turkey feathers. His wife wears a wraparound dress made of deerskin. His son, who is the oldest child, top of page 44, dresses as his father does. What do the small children wear? Why, nothing at all. In winter, too? Of course not. These people who live in the warm South are like people everywhere. They care about the way they look. Their clothing may be simple, but their makeup and jewelry are elaborate. Tattooed designs cover most of their bodies. Today, our hunter will paint himself with bright colors to celebrate the hunt. He makes his skin glisten by rubbing it with bear fat. Because he is handsome and a bit vain, he will blacken his teeth with tobacco ash. It is the fashion. He grooms his hair carefully. People across the world are inventive with hair, and the first Americans are no different. Our hunter shaves his head with a sharp shell, leaving an island of hair on top which he ties feathers. He leaves another island over one ear and makes a thin braid with those hairs. The hunter wears strings of pearls around his neck. His bracelet is of polished deer ribs that were bent and shaped in boiling water. He and his family live in a one-room house made of narrow tree limbs lashed together with vines and covered with bark. It is called a wigwam. The house has a round roof thatched with strong reeds. It is similar to the other 100 homes, all clustered around a central square. Do you see those children turning cartwheels down the village street and the others playing a game of ball? It would be fun to stay and watch the game, but we need to head north. From the capsule, we can see Indian villages dotting the forests and coastal lands. Most of them belong to the Indians who, like our hunter and his family, speak Algonquian languages. That doesn't mean all these villagers speak the same language. It means their languages are related, and most of their customs too. Many of the Algonquian tribes trade with each other and are friends. They have enemies who speak different languages. The Algonquians call them terrible people, or frightening people, or sometimes rattlesnake people. In the Algonquian language, the name of those enemies is Iroquois. They are unusual, these terrible people. They believe in peace and brotherhood, but when they fight, they are fierce and cruel. Their name for themselves is Haudenosaunee, which means people of the longhouse. It is a descriptive name. Their houses are long, sometimes 150 feet long, sometimes longer. The longest, said to be 334 feet long, even longer than a football field, was built by men of the Onondaga tribe. Do you see that longhouse above? We're on page 45. 20 families live there. Actually, they are all one big family, headed by a grandmother with brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, and other relatives. No one ever has to hire a babysitter. The Iroquois have formed a league of Indian nations and wish to bring the Algonquians and other Indians into that league. They say it is a league of peace. The Algonquians want no part of the league. They do not want an Iroquois peace. They don't want anything to do with their ancient enemies. The Iroquois have no written language. That doesn't mean they have no history or government records. Chiefs call sachems and other leaders of memory and wisdom are keepers of the people's past. They have a memory aid, a kind of picture writing done with thousands of tiny shell beads. The beads, called wampum, are strung on cords and woven into designs. Often they are sewed on deerskin belts. Wampum is valuable and is sometimes used as money. The design tells stories. Some record treaties, some tell the history of the clan. The Iroquois have much history to remember and a remarkable form of government. Here in America, in the 16th century, the Iroquois have fashioned a democratic league of 5 Indian nations. A 6th will be added, with leaders who are expected to serve the people. It is a confederacy, which means each of the nations has its own identity and laws, except in matters of war or common concerns. In those cases, a council of all the tribes makes decisions. All this has been organized in a plan of government that has been woven in wampum and mesmerized by the sachems. 50 male sachems are chosen by women who head family clans. In the Iroquois world, women are much respected. Perhaps that is because the Iroquois depend on their farm crops, and it is the women who do most of the farming. The Algonquian peoples are hunter-gatherers who do some farming. The Iroquois are farmers who do some hunting and gathering. The Iroquois women are excellent farmers.